What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Marketing Genius Podcast. Grant Wise here today with special guest, Mrs. Chelsea Peitz, who is a social media queen. I am pumped to be on with her today, and I know that she is pumped to be as well. Add a ton of value to you guys today, and my hope is that you walk away with a bunch of practical tips, things that you can walk off and implement from a marketing and sales standpoint. Chelsea, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here. I know I got a glimpse of you like in the flesh at Agent 2021. So I'm excited that we're able to actually sit down, have a chat, and kind of, talk about marketing. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Agent 2021 was great, wasn't it?
It was really, really good. I mean, they definitely know how to put it on an event, down to the very, very small details. When I was checking in and my friend next to me, they recognized her voice and said, "You must be so-and-so. I recognize your voice." I was like, wow, you guys are on point. So it was
works, yeah.
As somebody who's planned a ton of events, been to a ton of events, it was definitely amazing.
That's awesome. And you led, I say you led, I mean, you were on, but I felt like you led a really great panel discussion around branding.
That was really fun. Yeah, it was really exciting to be up there. My passion, my niche really is the branding piece of it. And so being able to distill sort of that, high level conceptual thing about what is a brand and actually bring it down into sort of actionable tips is really sort of my jam. So I was excited to be there.
That's awesome. So give us the backstory. Who is Chelsea Peitz? How'd you get to where you are today?
So currently my role is I'm the National Director of Social Sales for Fidelity National Financial, and that encompasses a large amount of companies. We're in the title and escrow insurance business, and I've been in real estate industry itself for about 20 years. I started as a real estate agent, and I worked in new homes, residential resale. I'm actually in Arizona, so we got hit really, really hard, as did a few other states in 2008. So that was a really interesting time in my life. Both my husband and I were real estate agents and when the crash happened, and we lost everything. We lost our personal houses, our investment properties, literally moved in with his mom into a 1,000-square-foot house. And that was actually the second time we moved in with his mom. And my husband decided he wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to start a business. And I was like, well, now seems to be the best time in the worst economy we've ever been in. But you know what? We learned a lot about starting a business, being an entrepreneur, marketing, all of that. So when I got out of the actual real estate, the day-to-day of being an agent, I went into this side of it, and I'm loving it because I still get to work heavily involved with our industry. And now I'm helping not only our entire sales teams, but also our clients and prospects learn how to use social media and create those business outcomes from social activities. Because a lot of people just think social media is fluff, that it's just, for marketing here and there. And I'm really teaching them how to be actionable with it, how to build a brand, attract the audience, and actually get sales from it. Not in a spammy way, like using it for good, not evil, because nobody likes DM spams and all of that. So that's essentially how I got here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Entrepreneurship's a wonderful journey to be on, right? Especially when you're first getting started.
You learn a lot about yourself. Yes, you do.
I heard a great quote one time. It said, entrepreneurship is, first you build yourself and then you build a business. And I think that.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love that.
Even if you go out and try to build a business first, as a byproduct, you're going to get constructed. There's just no way to go through entrepreneurship and not come out the other side another person, a different person.
You really learn what you're made of. That's for sure.
So talking about going through a lot of those ebbs and flows of the market and talking about, launching a new business and just everything that you've been through, tell me, in your words, how important is marketing to a business? Especially
I think we have to sort of redefine marketing a little bit too, because I think most people, when they think about marketing, especially people who aren't in the biz every day like we are, they think of advertising, and they probably think of some social media stuff. I really look at marketing more as the branding aspect, about really how are you leveraging all the free platforms we have to create a community, to actually talk to people, and how to take what we used to do traditionally. Because when I was an agent, there was no social media. This was BF. This was before Facebook. And there wasn't going on in Facebook groups and doing Facebook ads and Instagram stories. There was none of that. It was traditional door knocking, open houses, sending mailers, which all, by the way, still work. You just depends on how you do it and how consistent you are. But now we're taking those sales prospecting things and actions that we did, and it's just in a different format on a different platform. And in my opinion, a whole lot easier for me to reach 50 people at a scale and have a direct conversation with them on a daily basis than go to a physical meeting with 50 people. I couldn't do that. So for me, I think marketing is really about creating conversations and sharing who you are and your story. And a lot of people get caught up in the buzzwords like, oh, storytelling, authenticity, transparency. What is a personal brand? That's not how I roll. I'm like, here's what it actually is. Here, because I wanted a roadmap. Like I wrote a book. I did all of these things because I was frustrated. I'm like, why can't I just find something that tells me how to create valuable content? Don't tell me I need to create it. Tell me what does that mean? Like, where do I start? Like, what exactly is valuable content? So that for me was really frustrating. But I think when we're talking about marketing, it's really a lot about personal branding and who you are and just sharing you with the world and actually talking to people.
What do you think are, just like 2 or 3 practical things that people can do to start that? Because we talk to so many people on a daily basis. All we do in my office every day is marketing for other people, help people understand how to do that. We talk to so many people like, I want to build a brand. I want to build a brand. I want to build a brand. It's like, okay, what does that mean to you? It's like, well, I didn't expect you to ask me that. So I don't know. It's like, well, what are 2 or 3 practical things that you think somebody could do today to take that step towards starting a brand?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to try not to be cliche because I always hated that when I listened to other people and they were like, you just have to start. There is a little bit of that in there. I think what the challenge is that people think that when they're going to sit down and they're going to think about a brand, they expect that they have everything all figured out at day one. Mm-hmm. And what will happen as you start to put out content, as you start to talk about who you are as your brand, what I call your UVP or unique value proposition, which is basically I do what, for whom, that results in. And, that's a tough one. I mean, one sentence without jargon, without BS, without buzzwords, that's real hard. And that's the hardest assignment that I give the people that I work with, because when you have to think about yourself and what sets you apart, especially in an industry where you all do the same thing, it's really hard. And then you're like, you can't use extraordinary service. That's not a value proposition. It gets really difficult. But when you figure out I make the hard stuff about real estate easy. I don't waste your time. I help you save 3 hours out of the week by, doing whatever, simple things like that. We overestimate what we think it has to be this big, important thing. And what happens is where you start is not where you're going to end up in 2 years. When I started my daily show several years ago, which I've changed and I don't even do that anymore, I got known by the people who watch. They're like, oh, you're this real estate social media person. You're always giving the tips every day. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's my brand. So I rolled with that. And what happens is you evolve it. So after you've been doing it, it will get easier to evolve it, but you have to start somewhere. You have to put something down, then you have to actually create some content, and you have to tell people what your brand is. And you actually have to go on there. Maybe it's like your podcast or a live video or whatever you're doing and say, hey, I'm Chelsea and I, make the hard things about Facebook ads easy. Whatever it may be, whatever your jam is, that if it's marketing or sales or whatever it is, and you have to just keep repeating it and letting people know what you're doing. And the more you show up, the more you are there, people get this comfort level of feeling like they're safe because they're like, it's the same kind of energy, the same person that's showing up, even if they're not talking. I have people from 3 years ago that I've never talked to, never sent me a DM, never commented on my stuff, but they're watching, and I'm a lurker too. And so don't discount that you're connecting with people by showing up, and they like that you are showing up because it's a familiarity. So I think you have to start.
Which brings the next question is how important is consistency to building a social brand?
So important. And let me also clear up confusion about consistency. People hear consistency and they think every day, all day. That is totally not true. Mm-hmm. We all subscribe to, Gary, more content, more and more. We're not doing enough, right? But it's really about being consistent, whether that means having a schedule, whether that means if you're a night owl and midnight to 2 is when you are doing your thing, fine. Do your thing from midnight to 2. Put out your content. If it's first thing in the morning like it is for me, that's when I do it. If you need to do Tuesday, Thursdays, or Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and you commit to it, it's just like your job and going to the gym. You have to do it. And then, as you are consistent, what happens is you get into a rhythm. It becomes a little bit easier. Your fear about creating content on a regular basis goes away because you realize things start to pop up and you're looking at it in a different way. And you're saying, actually, that would be good for me to talk about, because you're forcing yourself to do it.
Yeah.
And then it gets a lot easier. And then you can up the frequency. You've got the build phase, which is the consistency. That's where people are going to build the trust with you. Then you've got the acceleration or the growth phase, which is the frequency. That's when then you start atomizing your content. You're going to multiple platforms. You're doing stories. You're doing posts. You're doing live videos. But you don't start with all that stuff. It's just, in my opinion, not humanly possible. So you have to be consistent. You have to build. Then you can accelerate, and that's when the frequency and the multiple platforms come in.
Yeah, you shouldn't look at it and say, because I have somebody that watches my videos and they'll send me a DM like, I need to record 200 videos. I'm like, how many have you recorded? He's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, well, why don't you just do one instead?
Yeah. Start with one and do it every week. And then after a year, you've got 52. And then next year, you're like, well, that was pretty easy. I can do 2 a week. And then you've got several hundred. Yes, exactly.
Awesome. How do you think that, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I want to ask a more direct question, is how do you think that building a social brand and doing some of the things that you're talking about doing impacts the relationships necessary through social that I might develop? How is that going to have an impact on my business? How do those relationships really help?
Yeah, I have gotten more business and more opportunities from my social media, air quotes, friends. People that my family and my husband would say, these aren't your real friends. This is not in real life. You don't know these people. But there is truly a science behind the screen to screen phenomenon, and your brain doesn't know the difference between me looking at you on the screen right now or in person.
Fact.
And so it truly is such a conversation pipeline and this like trust accelerator of seeing someone's face every single day. And I was just talking about this on another podcast this morning when, yeah, texting is great, but you know what's even better? Like you can text me, but also see what's happening in my day in real time. That's pretty awesome. I mean, I used to watch YouTube and be like, these people, I feel like I know them. I watch them every day, but I could never talk to them while they were filming that video. That's pretty impactful because then you start to have this like shared experience with people, and it's something that really triggers, these neurons that are firing in your brain, and you're like, I feel like I know these people. My very best friends in life, in real life, were people that I hadn't met for several years that I met on Snapchat. And people thought that was real weird. And I thought it was real weird too. But that's just how we roll now. And so if you don't have your own television channel where you're actually putting your face out there because that's what your brand is, it's your face, then people start to wonder why. And that's just how we've been trained in the last 36 months. So it's really, really powerful.
It's fascinating. We talk about this all the time, and there's a psychological term for this. It's called a parasocial relationship. It's where one person builds a relationship with a character, and the character has no idea that the other person even exists.
Yeah.
We have been programmed, not just in the last 36 months, but in the last 36 years, like for the last several decades. Somebody grabbed us when we were little kids and they sat us down in front of a TV screen and said, watch this. We became fans of Tom and Jerry or the Coyote one. I can't remember what that's called, but SpongeBob or this or that or the other. And as we grew up, so did our celebrities, right? Mm-hmm. Then we grew up with this celebrity and that celebrity. And now everybody's, super passionate about The Rock or whatever it is. Yeah. But since we were little kids, we were programmed to fall in love with those people. And that's the psychological term for kind of what you're describing.
Yep.
And so now today, what I love about it is when people see it on social, they see your show, then they see The Rock, then they see Kardashians, and then they see this person or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or whatever. They see these other people that they have this affinity for, this relationship for. You create some really powerful associations when you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your brand out there the very same way. Because our TV screens aren't, these gigantic devices that hang on walls anymore. They're these little bitty phones that Like I only have one kidney left, Chelsea, and I'd rather you take my last kidney than the cell phone because
totally.
I can afford a new kidney if I still have this phone.
Totally. I agree with you. I don't watch TV anymore because it doesn't talk back. And like, that's just, the reality of it. I'd rather watch, actual people and talk to them, whether, like you said, it's sort of on a, celebrity or, different kind of level, or just now everybody's their own celebrity, which is still, as somebody who's my age group, I'm 40, is an odd concept. It really is a strange concept. But yeah, I like you really love the science and the psychology, not only of the products that get us hooked on it, but what's happening. One of the things that I don't know if I've ever talked about this on a podcast, but it's like one of my favorite pieces of because I studied the brain for about a year in social media and how it affects our brains. And one is really cool is this doctor, Dr. Rodrigo Quiroga, discovered that we have these different neurons and like elements of our brain that react to just one face. And they jokingly call it the Jennifer Aniston experiment, because they would actually test people and they would show them pictures of celebrities like Jennifer Aniston or Whitney Houston, and your brain would fire in a different pattern for each person. So imagine that you're out there and you're watching someone's story and your brain's firing in this very specific pattern just for that person's face. That is so crazy. It's such a way to connect with people, and people are terrified of it. People don't believe in it. People don't want to do it. People say they don't have the time. My life is too boring. I hate how I look on camera, whatever it may be. But they have to understand that there's such a science that happens. Like you said, you have this affinity for people and you don't even realize it's happening. Right. That's crazy to me. I love it.
That's awesome. I know we kind of nerded out for a second, but
hopefully totally nerded out on the brain stuff.
If you're listening to this, hopefully you picked up just a lot of the reasons why what it is that we do works so well, and why what Chelsea's done over the last several years in building a phenomenal brand has worked so well, and why it can work so well for you. But just like she said kind of in the beginning, you do need to get started, find a platform that's for you, maybe even more importantly, a platform that your clients are on, maybe your niche is hanging out on, the certain demographics they're paying attention to, and start with one a week. One 30-second blurb about how your life was today. That's a start. And eventually you'll get better and better and better. And you start talking about more relevant content, start bringing more relevant tips, tricks. I always like to tell people, if you're that afraid of a camera, don't be on one. Just go interview a loan officer, or go interview the local painter, or the local lawn guy, or the local dry cleaner, or go create content around your community that we know the people that we're marketing to want. If I'm moving to an area, I don't know anybody, I need somebody that can point me in the directions of all these amazing people. So there's great tips in there. Great stuff.
I love that. That's a really good ideas to do. Everybody should be doing that anyway.
Yes. Awesome. Chelsea, I know you're really busy. Thank you so much for jumping on here and adding some value to the podcast listeners today. We really, really, really appreciate it. If somebody wanted to reach out and connect with you, what's the single greatest way for them to do that?
I can be found on all the socials under my name. I would love to connect with people on Instagram, because then you can really see my life, my daily vlog, and we can talk there. And I would love for everybody who actually comes from your podcast, send me a message so we can start talking. You can find me at chelsea.peitz, Peitz.
Awesome. And we will have that linked in the show notes, guys, so you can click and reach out and connect with her. And we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in to the Marketing Genius podcast. We will see you on the next episode.